Hello there, colleagues, across town, across the globe. It's another wonderful day in the year 2021. This is the month of September, and it's the 9th day thereof. I'm Paul Colby, your host for another episode of Paul Colby and the Investigators. The investigators who come with me for these particular gatherings are some of the most, I guess skilled is the only word I'm going to be comfortable with, some of the most skilled investigators on this planet. They work for me because I'm the only one that will take their stories, as rich and varied as they are, and broadcast them to the rest of Earth, where people really need to hear what's going on behind the scenes. And these days, almost everything that really is pivotal and instrumental and critical is behind the curtain. So, we're going to pull back the curtain for you tonight and tell you what's really going on in politics around here, in the arena of masking young persons going to school, in the arena of laws being passed in this state of Texas, in the area of the economy where people want meaningful work, in the area of music where people like to go to karaoke bars and sing their hearts out, in professional sports, in airlines. We're going to do it all, assuming we have time to get to it. And the people who are going to help me are some of the most fastidious of all researchers. First person I want to introduce, Horace D. Wormer. Horace is a former pastor of the Crash and Burn Internet Ministry. I have worshiped at the feet of that God, whoever his name is, a number of times in the past, just so I could have the experience. This guy, Horace D. Wormer, is also famous for lectures on the lesser-known diseases of our early peanut farmers. And he is a moon-based archaeologist, only person I know in America to visit all three of the as yet unnamed continents. And every time I bring these people on TV with me, they seem to have written a new book. Horace D. Wormer wrote How I Survived Puberty and Why. And Horace, I've often wondered about this puberty that you experience, I guess for most of the early part of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I had a rough childhood, you know. So I was just a colt when I joined the Young Centaurs. So we were somewhat predatory, and we had a hideout in the suppository repository. But I cover that in my book, all right, which is
yeah, chapter 2.
Yes, there's a lot of there's a lot of number 2 in this book.
Yeah.
And it's a coming of age allegory, kind of like the Lord of the Flies, you know, where we're surviving on ketamine and bean sprouts.
And now I guess having read chapter 2 repeatedly, it's my favorite, you must have had every version of bean sprout recipe that is known to man.
Absolutely.
And I guess you still eat them now?
I mean, whatever I can get my munching going on.
All right. That's fascinating, isn't it?
Right out of the bag.
Fascinating, isn't it? I think there's an echo in here. Another investigator who came with me tonight, and she came a long way. I think she came 500 miles or something like that. Something in the 60s just burped for me there. Anti-Climax is an advocate, or she was anyway, of equal pay for women wrestlers. Wow. One of the first things I was interested in when I became political. She is also the oldest living survivor of World War 2.0. That's always struck me as kind of redundant. Why would you need to say the oldest living survivor.
Well, boss, you don't understand. Some of the survivors are no longer living.
Oh yeah, okay, I get it. I think I get it. Okay. And Ann is also the chair of the, hold on, Boxcar Sociology Committee at the College of Metal Poets and a researcher on the group behaviors of traumatized cattle. That's tricky work, I'm sure.
Indeed.
She is the author of Alternative Facts of Life. This is what parents are supposed to pretend to know.
Yeah, it's actually really pretty deceptively simple, boss. First you take the good, then you take the bad, and you take them both, and there you have it. In fact, some of the best advice, for example, I can give to the younger generation is that you can really do anything you want in life, unless, say, it's true that, you know, the man is going to get you in the end.
Okay, so you, sounds like you present both sides of the equation.
I try to be objective.
Even when there's only really one side of some equations. That's what I've been told. But I learned from my researchers, and that includes macadamian. Mac, as you might know, is the heir to a fortune. That's the Mostly Rubber Planet fortune. He is a founder of the Karen for Karens Foundation. Oh, they are in the news a lot these days. And he is a spokesman for the part-time spoon feeders of Americanized Historiography, the Florida delegation thereof. His new book, they all have a new book. His new book, well, this is quite a title, Exploring the Bathrooms of Tomorrow and Feeling Their Warmth. Mac, I suppose this came to you as kind of a...
Well, actually, it came, I was using a pharmaceutical, perfectly legal pharmaceutical, and the side effect was I had very vivid dreams. So I woke up one morning and I just woke up, I had seen almost every bathroom I could imagine, so it became my life's quest to document all the bathrooms of the future.
And the warmth of those bathrooms, you do capture it in the book.
Right, I'm all about feeling warmth.
And I could not keep the book in my hands for very long because of the warmth of that book. But I need to ask you something. Since you've been working with Karen for Karens, I kind of wonder how these privileged white women are trained to adapt to a society where not everyone is like them.
Well, it's interesting, boss. What we found karaoke is a very effective form of therapy. So what we do is we start them out with, say, the Carpenters, Barry Manilow, John Denver, and then we gradually work them up through thrash metal and and then heavy metal, electronic dance music, et cetera, and finally we do with our better graduates, we do get them into hip hop.
Some of these people then, I guess, come away with a much larger worldview. Well, enough on introducing these amazing guests of mine. I want to jump right in and talk about local politics. And by local, I'm talking about Texas, because right now, if it's not Florida in the news or Arizona in the news, it's Texas in the news. So, for example, the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, recently made some headlines and introduced some controversy because he said he'd figured out why there's a surge in COVID in Texas. Too many voters. Therefore, this government of the state of Texas has to get some people off the voting rolls, or he was sort of saying get rid of voters, but I don't think he means to put them in the trunk of a car.
No, I wouldn't put it past him, boss. Let's just be
honest. Okay, a back seat of a car anyway, something like that.
Maybe the Mitt Romney, on top of the car.
those baggage carriers come in handy when you are removing, say, illegal aliens or others from a place where they shouldn't be. Yes.
And Patrick certainly has plenty of baggage, boss. I can tell you that. I've been told that.
Oh, okay. Well, next guy up, Ken Paxton, an attorney general who needs an attorney. But to keep himself out of the limelight or out of the federal court, you get my, anyway, he has introduced a report which clears him of everything. Let's see now, what did that cover? All charges concerning his behavior, business dealings, choice of words, ethical stances, and even digestive mannerisms. I think we're going to be talking more about digestion as we go through the news of the day. You have a governor here called, well, he calls himself Greg Abbott. And this is the government, this guy has a new theory that you govern by special sessions. You can't really get anything done while the legislature is in session, so you have special sessions. We already had one to attack voters, and then we had another special session to attack women. And
Yeah, and he's getting so good at attacking. I think that Biden has just sent the USS McCain and a couple of Tesla bots to Tokyo.
well, I wouldn't be surprised to read on that subject.
Boss, I did. I've been told by my sources that one of the next special sessions is going to be the Jeff sessions. It's expected to be very short and ineffective.
That's right, and it's short because if you look at the headquarters that Governor Abbott is using for some of these special sessions, they're not on the road map. In fact, this was in a backyard somewhere. It doesn't look like it has a large capacity. Maybe you could get 10 people in there. So these are first come, first serve events. You don't really need a quorum. You just need a forum to do new things. But that's where apparently it's all happening. But some laws have already been passed in Texas that are going to apply to you guys right away. So permitless carrying, that's a new thing. If you're over 21, you can carry a handgun without training or a license. So if I see somebody at the grocery store line who is talking Brussels sprouts, I don't argue. I don't argue with them. No. You don't know what they might have in that grocery bag. They also have a law now that's going to ban homeless camps. So this means that the new homeless people, and I'm talking about the people who just got evicted because evictions just got undone. You know, the eviction moratorium is no more. So these people on the street for a long time are going to have to teach the new people living on the street how it goes down. Social studies. You are not going to be able to discuss systemic racism and certain current events. These are the kind of things that really that can mess up an ordered society like Texas. Now, for example, even though we are going to have required police body cams under these new laws, none of these laws talk about whether you have to charge the batteries, do they? You can buy beer at 10 o'clock in the morning now.
Oh, yes, and you know what? One of the major sponsors of that was the megachurches, because they stand to make a killing at the noon services at that point. Everyone comes in drunk. They can shake you down at gunpoint now, too, so I expect to see a big spike in megachurch revenue.
I understand. We are also now supposed to ban unnecessary chokeholds. The police are, I mean, not the rest of us. I mean,
So if you're in a restaurant, you know, and somebody's got that one sort of T-bone stuck, you can throttle the hell out of them.
that's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I did, boss, part of that bill originally was supposed to ban choking barnyard fowl, but since the Republican supporters that's one of their main hobbies is choking barnyard fowls, that they deleted that part of the bill.
Yeah. I can see how that would happen. Yeah. Anyway, of course, the most onerous provision here in these new laws has to do with those restrictions on abortion. And I don't want to just get carried away arguing about something that's blatantly unconstitutional, but I understand that it's like how our government reached a secret agreement with a bunch of those Talibans. Well, Governor Abbott, apparently, he's not worried about rapists when it comes to discussing this new anti-abortion law, because he says they're going to just arrest all of these rapists off the street. They're just going to come arrest them. Now, what is curious to me, part of the secret agreement he reached with them is that they will all agree now to wear distinctive clothing and hang out on the streets where they can be arrested.
Well, boss, I heard that in order to reflect the actual rate of rape prosecution, that only 3% of those rapists will have to wear the special clothing.
Okay. Well, I guess I feel relieved. Is that how I should feel?
With your fingers.
Okay.
As long as you feel with warmth.
Okay. Warmth. Right. Like when I go to the bathroom, I always feel the warmth. Masking in schools. Oh, I told you, let us pray. Let us pray. They're going to pray, aren't they? They're already praying in my neighborhood. They're preying on people who want to mandate masks for students going to school. And, you know, students don't mind wearing masks very much. In fact, for them it's a lot of fun. But in this particular case, all of the masking seems to just replicate the political beliefs of their parents. Yeah, you can see from the slide, we went down to St. Rogers grade school the other day, and we took this picture. Even some of the teachers are wearing some of these political masks now. I'm shocked.
I do want to point out, I was not part of that trip, boss. I need to make that perfectly clear, because, as you know, being near a school is a bit problematic for me, so I don't want to give the impression that I was near a school.
Okay, all right. You know what? There is a new racket that goes with this mask wearing, because when you're wearing a mask, you can't really tell who's behind that mask. So some kids who used to say, take your exam for you, there's a new scam. And here's a guy named Goober, I don't know what his real name is, but he's pretending to be 3 or 4 different students at St. Rogers grade school. And since he's wearing a mask, and so are well, they're not really there, but...
You know what? Sometimes the person you're with, it's called wearing a beard.
And I learned that a long time ago in school when we didn't have masks. But there's alternatives, of course. For those who don't want to be masked, you still have online capabilities. Now, I don't think they have really tested all these power lines to see how many kids can actually sit on the line up there without it breaking. So I don't know if that's...
I think they've done some preliminary work with birds, boss.
Birds.
But that, of course, doesn't really translate well. But there's a scalability problem with using birds.
While you mention birds, I got to tell you something about Greg Abbott, our governor. The reason we had a special session the first time around, he was arguing with some Democrats about changing the state bird of Texas. And they said, okay, but then he wanted the state bird of Texas to be a rhinoceros. And they said, no, it's got to be a bird. And he said, I said rhinoceros. It doesn't have to be a bird to be the state bird, but I digress. There's also the opportunity for remote learning. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to send you off to the Somerset Island or something. You have places like Trump's Taj Mahal that have been out of business for some time. They've been converted to charter schools. So you can send your kids off to a remote facility. Now, a lot of kids, they don't like any of these options, and what they're going to do is skip school to go see the concert with Eric Clapton coming up right here in the instant future, because they don't have to wear a mask there. In fact, you can't wear a mask if you go to see Eric Clapton. Well, a lot of this has been going on since the last presidential election, and I'm not going to surprise you if I say that some people are still contesting the last election. There are election challenges in a lot of localities, and in fact, that is one of the few job opportunities you have in America right now, a new job opportunity, I mean, because you can make big money and you don't have to have experience of any kind to do one of these audits. Now, there's not really any significant job opportunity. Well, flight attendants. Flight attendants is another job opportunity. You used to do that, didn't you?
I did. I actually went undercover as a flight attendant in the 1970s. And unsurprisingly, it's an extremely sexist environment. I could not get a single punch in.
Yeah, that's kind of like my experiences. I could not get a drink. I had to order it 3 times.
My sources tell me another one, because there's been a supply chain problem with China and most crash test dummies are purchased from China. So live crash test dummies is a really booming field.
I guess you have to be willing to put up with the rigors of that kind of work, the brick wall part.
I mean, I thought about sending my family members over to Arizona for, the whole election monitoring thing, but, we're a little big in the caboose, so it's hard to accommodate on the plane, but we're going to be holding our own elections,
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm thinking we're going to just trot out, a shoe in, and maybe we'll probably stampede if he loses by a nose.
What some of these people are saying, by the way, the people who are looking at these ballots, they're saying there's something conspiratorial about the whole thing. We looked at some of their complaints, like here's the back of a ballot, and all I can see is a bunch of 1s and 0s. Mac, do you got any idea what this is?
That's simply what you see, what happens after you delete a file. It's not really any nefarious
Okay,
indication.
so that's not nefarious, but I'll tell you what is nefarious. We turned over one of these ballots and we saw what looks like a pledge here, some fine print that vows allegiance to the chosen one, whoever that might have been. Funny thing to see on the back of a ballot there. But while we're talking about voting and ballots, Texas has passed some new voting rules. Let's see if I have those on hand. Yes. New rules in Texas. Well, you can vote early if you agree to vote Republican. I wonder what that's about. You can't vote after dark or during a climate change event. I guess that needs to be defined in the law. And drive-through voting, that is permitted now, but only at installations that used to be drive-in movie theaters. And these, what I am told is you have to sign a waiver because there are going to potentially be sharpshooters on hand and they can't guarantee your safety and that sort of thing. So there's a casualty rate for people who decide to vote at a drive-in. But the thing that amazes me is they're giving more power to poll washers. I saw a picture that is talking about this equipment they use, and it looks like you would hose down something. I know there are some accessories that go with that hose. I am not real clear what a poll washer is actually going to do.
No.
But
Yeah, I've done extensive research on a similar topic, pole dancing.
Pole dancing.
And interestingly enough, and again, because I'm dedicated, I personally went out and investigated this, that there's a gentleman's club, shall we say, in Houston, which with COVID actually has drive-through lap dancing, which I thought was an interesting use of American ingenuity. And
I guess you can only vote once, huh?
and some people vote more quickly than others, as it turns out.
Yeah, I'd say there's
How
a
on earth did I get involved with this organization?
well,
As you were saying, boss?
okay, well, as I was saying, Texas rules. You know, it's not just Texas laws that reflect that we're challenging the election of a president still way months later. But you see that the Republican Party these days is challenging any attempt to look into what was being promoted just before the election. I'm talking about politics of hostility followed by an insurrection, a possible attempt at a coup in January before the changeover from one administration to the other. And so the committee investigating the insurrection has asked some big tech companies to preserve phone records of some Republicans. But you know what? They didn't even need to do that. And you know why?
Right.
Well, okay, look. I have long been a vinyl collector, collecting vinyl records. And you know, vinyl records are making a comeback. And you know what's the most popular new motif on phone records these days? Phone records. They're comedy records starring members of the Republican Party. First one that is a real big hit right now is Jim Jordan's You Heard Me. And I guess you know, Mac, one of your favorite songs right now? Favorite phone record?
Well, actually, I'm partial to barnstorming with my equine friends and family members.
Oh, I thought it was I talk to Donald every day.
Oh.
Baby, or however that goes. Anyway, there's other greatest phone records, phone gags from some other Republicans, and you were telling me one of your favorites is.
I was really surprised. I was fairly impressed, at least with one track on Rudy Giuliani's Flatulence remix, "Classless Gas." It ironically, that one track was pretty fresh, is the only way I can put it. But now the rest of the album was sort of a head-scratching attempt to combine dubstep and speedcore. So I'm not sure who he was trying to reach with that. And he also had billed it as a collaboration with the Four Seasons. Unfortunately, it was the landscaping company again. 2 out of 5 stars at best.
Boy, I'm getting the feeling that you didn't detect warmth in that.
Zero warmth whatsoever.
So it would make Bathrooms of the Future. It would not be a good playlist for Bathrooms of the Future. Then,
oh, certainly not.
They're all about warmth.
Unless you want to just shut off all lower GI functions, then no, definitely not.
Okay, well,
if you're going to be eating Brussels sprouts, I think you need to. That's unacceptable.
You know, McCarthy is not stopping with just this nonsense of resisting phone records. I don't want to harp on a subject, but he just recently said that the Democrats, in attempting to get these phone records, are breaking a law. And so I was asking myself, what law is he talking about that they were breaking? And I did a little research. There's a famous law, Small Bears on the Patio Prevention Act. That was passed when some rowdy Democrat wanted to break up the airline industry. So that was many years ago. And then McCarthy also said that the Republicans won't forget. And it seemed odd to me, because I think what the investigating committee looking into the insurrection was saying is we're not going to forget either. Oh well, that's politics for you. You probably heard that a lot of people are getting evicted, like I mentioned, because the moratorium on evicting people, well, that expired now. But there's a good side to this story. I am told, and I think I was mostly told by Horace, that there's an increase in food stamp money so people can get more bean sprouts if they're evicted. So I guess they'll be really happy with that, huh?
I suppose I'm just stalling.
Well, I guess they'll eat well. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to say that the Republicans themselves had an opportunity to evict people because this moratorium ended on evicting people. Originally, a bunch of them wanted to evict Marjorie Taylor Greene from the party. It seems like they had some rethinking on the subject, and they want to keep her, and they want to evict Liz Cheney. So there you go. Well, I mean, what can I say? I can say that I like to go to the karaoke bar, so I'm glad I don't live in China, because in China, the Ministry of Cultural Affairs just prohibited people from singing a few songs that they think are, well, they're too dangerous.
Wait a second. No, I thought this is a relief, because I thought this was a eukaryote bar, and I was worried that now my bootleg Beijing Bacteria bandstand cassettes were just going to be too expensive to import.
I think they're all on CD now. I mean, I bought a volume 1 of the greatest hits of the greatest hits of the rest of them. So I don't think you have to worry about that, Horace. But of course, with all of these reissues on CD, they bring out things that were not released before. And I think that's the problem in China. This new one, people were singing "Hands Off My Intellectual Property" by King Furniture. They can't sing that anymore. And Shelley Belly, do you listen to her?
I haven't.
In China, they listen to her, and they were singing "Was That an Orgasm?" But they can't sing that anymore. You know why that is? Let me read from the New York Post. Why can't they sing these things? They have illegal content. They promote hate speech, discrimination, discussion of violence, other illegal activities, and they have lewd, vulgar, and otherwise inappropriate language. Now, of course, if that rule were applied here, you wouldn't have much FM radio left to listen to. Now, what it really comes down to, I like to go out and sing at the karaoke bar, and when I went out last week, I was going to sing "Who Are These People in the Distinctive Clothing, and Why Do I Keep Running Into Them on the Street?" And I think it was the Attorney General of Texas said, "No, you can't sing that here in the karaoke bar."
There's other songs that I've for example, I know quite a bit about karaoke from the Caring for Karens Foundation.
Yeah.
And I've tried to sing "Alfalfa in My Dreams, Sprouts in My Reality," and that for some reason is banned. I don't know.
That probably is talking about reproduction in much too specific terminology.
Yeah, I didn't think that the word sprout, probably they're thinking sprout in a sprouting life.
I notice you call most of your relatives sprouts.
I do. Sprouts and fillies and foals, and we got layers of this. The whole family tree. It's just kind of the equestrian dream.
Oh, this is so interesting.
But there's that one element. The president, Xi Jinping, he's got that one above all else. You can't even put it in print. It's Ni Shang Bu Shang Gunmo Ichi Chir Fan Ma, which effectively is a ban on "Do you think I'm in a sect, Xi?" can't sing that either.
Well, I tried to sing that once, but I forgot everything after the first verse. So, it was, but I think the audience felt a warmth from my performance, so I just did the first
Well,
verse.
I've seen you in action at karaoke bars, boss, and you can, if you hum the first few bars, you can usually fake it quite
That's
well.
right, exactly. And that reminds me, well, I'll explain why it reminds me, but I was hacked like millions of you. T-Mobile said, oh, by the way, a number of millions of you, some of your files were exposed. In fact, they sent me a letter, said, you know, that they had to inform me, they were obliged. And I said, okay, give me the worst news. And they sent me this one, and honestly, I don't remember ever calling the Thrill Seekers phone fun line. Especially, I didn't request Around the World in 80 Minutes. That reminds me of an old movie I think I saw. Anyway, so I said, if this was exposed, why don't you just send me a hard copy of everything? And they did send it. I haven't really had a chance to go through all of this stuff that was in my files. But you'll be happy to know there is legislation planned. You'll be unhappy to hear that the legislation is going to make it against the law for you to be hacked. You see what I'm saying? It's not going to be that they're going after the people who hacked you. That's why it was in the Middle Class Horror Weekly. I read this story last week.
I see. So you're not the hacker, you're the hackee, and you can be fired from your job. That makes you the hacky sack. It all makes sense.
See?
See,
See?
that's why you pay him the big bucks, boss.
Well, I'm trying to raise your salary too. But anyway,
You know what? I got one for you. This one's rich. So my diaphragm was hacked in this, and I have a pretty good guess of who it was because I've been getting nonstop emails from Dan Patrick that all contain just a tenuous, at best, grasp on the female reproductive system. I keep hearing this tick, 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 and then 6 weeks, and it really kills the mood. I mean, how are we supposed to live like this?
I know I couldn't. I mean, that's why I took the monotrain out of town. You know, that's why I'm in the country. You can't find me.
Yep.
I mean, I spent a few days at Greg Abbott's special session headquarters, just trying to see if I could hide there.
You're so dedicated, boss.
Well, they locked me out at night. That's why I left.
All this talk about exposure, boss, is making me a little uncomfortable because, you know,
Well,
my past history and the school thing and all that. So,
well, you raise
we're getting a little PTSD right here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, it's all a version of warmth, this PTSD stuff. You know, we've always said that interest groups are a problem here in America, but the growing problem, I think. Oh, well, let me just. He reminded me. So I'm going to comment on this because this was in the Angry Consumer this month. The NSA had a contract with Microsoft, but they just gave it to Amazon. And Microsoft is awfully mad about that, but they went with Amazon because they need some data on what we buy. And you know, it lumps me into a category with Horace over here because I am known to buy bean sprouts on occasion, and I'm not ashamed of it. But
And I think, boss, I think the governor really supported even though he's not responsible for it, he supported the switch to Amazon because he thought Amazon was the Amazon jungle, and the state bird of Texas, the rhinoceros, actually lived in the Amazon jungle.
well, they used to. They ran them out of there. I remember reading that story, and I think it's being made into a motion picture.
Well,
now.
weren't there entire convoys of rhinoceri that were leaving the Amazon and coming up through Central America and coming across the open border into Arizona? Did I hear that correctly?
Arizona, yeah, parts of Arizona, and
As soon as they cross the border, it's like, well, here's your permit carry and here's your bandolier. Damn rhinoceroses.
a lot of them got into pro football though, and so they're doing all right now. But
Yeah, well, I think we'll be talking more about pro football
I
later.
think we
so
will. I think
I'll-
we will. But before we get to that, I want to talk about interesting groups because when I heard that the new focus is going to be on controlling interesting groups, I did some research. You've heard of the Proud Boy Scouts of America? I got a copy of their manual, which is about starting forest fires, pandemics, and insurrections on a shoestring budget. Now, I guess I really shouldn't have signed up because I got myself on some sort of FBI list just because I wanted to look at that manual. I also joined Citizens Untied a while back. I have a lot of sewing buddies there in my zip code, and I'm going to be renewing my membership in, well, I mean, the thing about it is, I have to renew it and get the list because I don't know how to recognize another Citizen Untied.
You know, I was there, but I like to think of myself more now as proudly untethered. So I don't believe in Q, but let's just say I'm an avid fan of the many sponsors of Sesame Street, particularly Elmo's Elemental Collective.
I never joined that group, and so far I haven't even investigated it. It sounded to me like it was aimed at the preschool sort of mindset, and that's so devoid of warmth.
Well, it's sort of the petting zoo recruitment model.
Oh, okay, that puts it in perspective.
It also ties back to the new Texas laws. I believe one of the laws they've passed prohibits the tying of citizens in certain positions, even in the privacy of their own bedroom.
That's right. It's that same. It's one of the provisions says that you can't use an unnecessary chokehold, but you can tie them up. Yeah, I mean that's pretty unrestricted.
Are blindfolds allowed in that situation, boss?
I don't see that.
Okay.
I don't see that.
As long as you can use a folding chair and an elbow from a drop.
Boy, you learn something every day hanging around these people.
Does that mean pro wrestling is one of the high growth job categories?
I don't know a thing about pro wrestling, but I'm just saying you get a little elevation in the bedroom, you know, that canopy kind of thing. It's an opportunity. You just swoop right in. It's all consenting now.
I have nothing to do with with that group. I mean,
Well, we're all glad you're sex positive for us, so at least you have that going for you.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, this last group that I'm a member, and y'all can tell me about your groups, but my experience with the people named Bailey Alliance for Persuasive Biology, I can't quite understand. You see, they say if you want a new rainproof genome, then you just send your DNA footprint, and they do the rest. They send it back to you, and this goes the attention Chuck at the warehouse. I don't know who that is. I think that goober might be Chuck at the warehouse, but in any rate, you had a DNA footprint that you were using to get into some of the concerts, weren't you?
Yeah, that was several years ago, boss, but unfortunately I just lost my, it's a tragedy. Cheering up, I lost my DNA footprint during Harvey.
Oh, I lost a refrigerator.
Very sorry. Very sorry.
It's the therapy is helping. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your referral.
Oh, I'm just so glad that worked out. I really am.
I
Well,
guess
it's a work in progress. We're not there yet.
course.
But
I guess some of the Karens are helping you out on that too, because
yeah, most of the Karens don't really understand DNA, so it's not as
Oh,
fruitful a source of relief as you might expect.
okay, all
You
right.
know, I'm surprised though. I would still imagine they'd be lecturing you on it anyway.
Oh yeah, it doesn't stop them from lecturing me on it. No knowledge is no.
No knowledge, no barrier.
Okay, okay, look, I don't understand this, but anyway, I haven't sent in my DNA footprint yet. I was going to make a copy of mine before I sent them, you know, my original. I don't want to be in the same shoes he's in. What size are those now?
Well, my left is a size 12, but my right, due to a deformity, is actually like an equine hoof. So the right foot shoe is actually nailed on.
Okay, all right.
Damn, you must be my cousin.
Yeah.
Speaking
You want to get married?
Well,
Speaking of technology, we've been hearing about a chip shortage, and I saw on the internet a lot of you can't be sure these days because people rush things online. You don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but these people are saying that this new laptop runs on these chips look just like some things that I had with lunch. They're pretty big. But anyway, this laptop works on these chips.
And that almost looks like the hacked diaphragm that you were discussing earlier.
It does indeed.
Well, one thing I was concerned about was hearing from you guys that they put chips in my vaccination. But certainly these look too big to be inserted, at least surreptitiously would be difficult. Anyway, while we're on the subject of that kind of technology, I think we should mention that some symphonies, like in Cleveland, are having to cut costs. So I told, I'm not going to say that I have anything to do with this, but I told some of the people on Cleveland's board that they could get one of these semiconductors who would work a lot cheaper than the guy they had in mind. And so His Excellency, the farm music hero, is going to be a semiconductor for Cleveland's orchestra next year. Which reminds me, there are silly videos going on right now online on TikTok. You see people who are building pyramid structures out of milk crates, and then they are trying to walk to the top of the milk crate pyramid without falling off. And most of the videos you see on TikTok are people falling off. But this made me curious because it seemed like something that happened a long time ago. And then Anne brought me this document, which is amazing. You see here what appear to be milk crates, and these milk crates are in a pyramid shape, and then there's some writing up there in the top right-hand corner. Have you figured out what that says?
Yes, we have. In fact, this was the how-to manual for how to build the pyramids, and it was the structure is really brilliant. Nobody's been able to figure this out yet. It is actually milk crates, just top to bottom, and then they spray this kind of foam over it, and it looks just like sand. So it's why they've stood the test of time.
Is that the same kind of foam that those pole washers are spraying?
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, it is.
So I understand that you have looked into pyramids as well.
Well, I'm glad you asked
Think
that.
about it differently.
Yes, because y'all need to really distinguish your pyramids, right? Because think about your triangles. You got your isosceles, you got your equilateral. With your pyramids, you got your hexagonal, your pentagonal. This one here, well, they changed the picture now, but that one was named Frank.
The Frank Pyramid.
Darn right.
That's frankly perplexing. But what I also find frankly perplexing is this was prehistoric times, where our early history times. Where in the world did they get milk crates?
Okay, see, that's the interesting kind of wrinkle in the tail.
Yeah, we've got another.
We see that we have another slide there. As I said, they are very advanced. This is code. It's actually a non-binary code, so any gender can construct these pyramids. And these are in fact, instructions on how to build the milk crates,
Yeah.
or how to have your slaves build the milk crates. You know, they were advanced, but not terribly advanced.
So there
So,
you
so
go.
they identified as milk crates, in other words.
Potentially.
I think it was that class system, the milk class and the milk drinking class.
Yes.
Something like that. But anyway, that explains the pyramids, and it explains TikTok. There's an interesting footnote to this, though. Some of those people in the TikTok videos who fell off their milk crate pyramids, they are being abducted. Horace, you studied this subject?
Well, yeah, you know, you see, y'all need to learn your history just a little bit. So, TikTok videos, right? Think about this. 20 years ago, you and me was playing cards on my porch.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so we were drinking beer, eating some sprouts, and then Uranus had this gaseous ejection. So my people had to evacuate, and some of them had to be put down. So they've been laying in wait ever since, but now that COVID is here, all right, they return to Earth. Good people. Now they are on a mission to bust in your back doors, and they're here to whisper the good Lord's message.
That sounds
And
like
that message is?
Iverrectum.
So where have I heard that before?
sounds,
Oh yes, it's in the news, yeah.
sounds like you did a very comprehensive probe of the entire issue.
I have been to dark places.
Okay, look, okay, enough about that. Don't want to think about that. It's so warm in here. You know, have you noticed every other commercial on TV these days is about better food for your dog? And so all of these people are running out and buying better food for their dogs, and so they're not serving them kibbles anymore.
Well, and cats, boss.
And cats. And I was wondering, where have all the kibbles gone? Well, I talk to a flight attendant, they'll tell you the truth. These kibbles are now being served as snacks on airline flights.
They certainly are, boss, and they are also more than likely to show up on every summer value menu at any fast food restaurant in the country. So you get what you pay for.
Certainly seems like something I should not be feeding my cats, boss. Is that, could you help me out with that? Is that's a fair statement?
That's my advice to you. That's my advice. I mean, it's a question of standards, and standards are always changing. Like, for example, the Air Force, they're changing dress standards. Did you know that it is now okay to have skull tattoos while you're in the Air Force? Huh? Got a picture of one of them? I thought we had a picture of us. Yeah, we do have it. Yeah, the bite me tattoo. You know, there is also one that I don't understand. If I can just find it here, it has to do with hair being moved from a 2-inch to a 3-inch standard for the top of the head.
Well,
Why would that be?
Well, well, one, it's a cost-saving measure because fewer haircuts, fewer costs for barbershops. But more importantly, it's just because size does matter.
Size matters. Yes, okay. I should have known that. Size matters. Let me ask you about one other one. This is okay now. Transparent piercing spacers are authorized. That's what I thought. Nobody knows what that means.
Is this intergalactic weapon possibly?
Well, if it's the Air Force, who knows?
But I'm sure it's illegal in Texas, whatever it is.
It is, yeah, of course it's illegal in Texas, but...
So it probably has something to do with reproduction then.
Oh, I was thinking of transparent space piercers. That's an entirely different branch of the military.
Okay,
My
okay.
Apologies.
Let me just end on a note about sports, because we all love going to football games here in Texas, and so what's happening right now across a number of professional sports is that the names of teams are being changed because some of them were pretty insensitive and they're just worn out. You need new names that reflect, you know, current standards and current realities. For example, we saw this article recently about an owner changing the name of an NFL franchise to the Foot Doctors and replacing their mascot, Mr. Sweatshirt. I'm not sure what the replacement mascot would be for the team called the Foot Doctors, but I like the new names for the cartoon diners. I can imagine that mascot. They would be eating kibbles and things of that sort. The field mummies, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, people want to go back to football games, but they still complain about the price. Look at this ticket for an NFL game. This is at Apparent Meatball Park. Ann and I used to meet there to exchange secret documents because it was so noisy in there, nobody could hear what we were talking about anyway.
Oh, those were great times. And you know what? For a park called Apparent Meatball Park, that place was almost impossible to find.
Well, it was right next to Governor Abbott's special session. You know, they dug out the roadbed to put that in. Mm-hmm. But anyway, those football tickets, as you noticed on that particular ticket, the games are free. The games are free. But look over to the left. The parking is $160. And I did have a beer. I went to this game. The helicopter, well, I'm a big fan of the helicopter salesman. And I went to this game, and the beers were $25.
Wow.
But I was able to get half of a beer. You know?
I bought one of those foam fingers, and when I got to the register, they said, okay, 17, and I gave them my credit card. $1,700 for the foam finger. I couldn't believe it.
Uh-huh.
We go back.
If they don't get you coming, they get you going.
If we go going back to team names,
beans.
boss.
The beans.
Going back to team names, the one I've heard that there's actually a team called the Libs, and it's actually the most valuable franchise now in the NFL because of course everyone wants to own the Libs, so that bid the price up. So
Well, there you go.
That was the new name, you know, because I think that when they used to play at that facility you were talking about.
Yeah, the Parent Meatball Park.
Yes, the former names. That was a minor or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing my sports up, but it was the Ted Cruz Horse Canoes, Douche Canoes. But obviously, it didn't go far.
Whew.
Well, you know, this is one bright side of this is it's really benefited the NCAA, the college. Since now that the players are allowed to make income on their own, for instance, the Capital City Top Ramens have been able to upgrade, and they will now be known as the Shrimp Cocktails. Mascot's very fun. Really looking forward to their games.
Well,
that
I guess we're going to have to leave it there because we just ran out of time trying to get to everything. But most of what I promised you, we covered. And what we didn't cover this time, we'll try to get to it next time. We always come back around to tell you the latest. As soon as we know that it's past history, then it's the latest for what you guys are hearing about, you know, even if we knew it first. So what we're not telling you tonight, it probably won't affect your crossing the street, especially if you're out there wearing distinctive clothing.
which I